What's going on, Golden Gamers? We asked you guys if you were around on Twitter and YouTube to ask me anything, and you came through in a wonderful way. I saw so many questions just on Twitter alone. So, I'm going to do everything in my power right now to answer all the questions as thoroughly as possible. Let's go ahead and get into it. Eli Cools, as the god of neutral game, you were able to weave together many elements that gave you your signature smooth yet threatening style. My question is, which player today fascinates you the most in terms of playstyle? Be it by way of creativity and novelty, or technical ability, or fleshed out punish, or really any combination of these skills. I always think it's interesting when I get called the god of neutral game, because when I came up, I was a very robotic player. I was a very punish-oriented player. And I changed a whole lot as a person and player and became more neutral focused and put it together more. Creativity and novelty, and even just a lot of stuff for punish. I mean, none. You know, I'm not just saying it because he's a teammate. I just genuinely think none. You know, the guy with multiple personality disorder is just absolutely so creative. I really enjoy watching him play a lot, except for when he plays against Sheik, because I know he's having a terrible time. I like watching him. I like watching him a lot. I think he plays the player. He does optimal stuff in the mix of all that. He kind of weaves together like fighting game knowledge. He comes up with his own kind of unique solutions. He doesn't really follow the meta, you know, so much. He wants to find his own way, but he's not stubborn. I mean, he's talked a lot about how he was stubborn in the past, and he's trying to pull from more places. So I kind of like, you know, that forging your own path, and in a way that's really exciting. So I really think it's really fun. You know, I think another player that's just kind of interesting just to kind of watch as a story is IBDW or Cody. You can only have so much fun watching Fox like invalidate people or kill them really fast, but you know, there's something about watching it happen and knowing everything that's gone on with Cody's story and everything, and knowing how much work he's put in to get where he's gotten to, or even see how good his recovery's gotten because of all his work and you know, every facet of his game, right? I think that's been really cool to see. So that might be just a second answer. I don't know if he's my second favorite, but it's, you know, just someone else I just felt like shouting out right now, so I thought I'd go for it. And we've got Aaron asking, favorite places to eat post-tourney, any memories that stand out over the years of you and the homies chowing down? There was this place that we would eat at a lot in North Carolina. It was a place in Chapel Hill, and we would have our tournaments at this college apartment. They would be huge tournaments for a local. It'd be like 60 or 80 people crammed into this little apartment. And then we would go downtown Franklin Street at this place called Beeskie's. I don't know if it's still around or not, but we'd go there all the time. And man, I was a chicken tender fanatic back then, gamers. And so I would get some chicken tenders, and we'd just be walking around downtown, goofing off, making jokes, people watching. Some people would be messing with people, and I was like, I ain't doing that. It was just kind of like the fun thing to do. It was just what you did. You went to the tourney, you went and goofed off at Beeskie's, you went and just said dumb stuff, you know. It was whatever. It was just what it was, and that was just kind of a classic. Brennan Hunt, thank you for your question. Who are some of the best friends you've made through Melee? This is a heartwarming question. I think Lawzer has got to be one of the highest level answers. I mean, he was the #1 player at the time when I started playing. He became my teammate, and we became one of the best teams in the world for a few years. Him and I were really close for a while. We, you know, we've just gone a couple, like some separate ways now, but we still have really good feelings for each other, obviously. But it's just not, we're not both at tournaments all the time anymore, right? But you know, I always loved seeing him, and he comes in my chat sometimes, and it's always a wonderful time. So I mean, I've got to shout him out first. Cactuar, I think, has got to be up there. I mean, he coached me a lot, and that work we did was a lot of in-game and out-of-game, and kind of, you know, both at the same time type of stuff. Changed my view about the world so much. I spent time with him before Skatar 3 and before Apex 2015. He helped me through some difficult times in my life and made himself available, you know, to talk about Melee and all sorts of things, and sometimes even when it was inconvenient for him. So I'm very grateful. Yeah, I would say those are probably top 2. Maddie_SSBM, excuse me, says, "Hey baby, big fan. I was wondering what got you motivated to push forward. I personally feel this drive to want to improve in Melee, but also feel a huge kill in motivation because I feel no one I personally know takes it as seriously as me. Thanks for the encouragement in advance. Oh, you're very welcome for the encouragement in advance. I think this is a good question, especially right now when people's motivations in Melee are, I think, a little all over the place with the state of the scene and everything else. Something that's always been really important for me. I've been in a situation where we didn't have online, not even, you know, delay-based online. We didn't have online. I lived far away from anyone I could play. I used to play my brother a lot, but he stopped wanting to play. And there was just a year where I just had to think, and I had to analyze, and I had to just make use of the few tournaments I could go to, even local ones, to get better, to play the game. This was a hard time, but it really taught me, you know, it helped me think about what was important. And a big part of, I think, what's most important I still got better in that time, by the way. And what's most important, I think, is remembering what's fun about the game. And for me, it's really fun to solve the problems. What is something that someone's doing that's really hard to deal with? What is something a character could do that's just really hard to deal with? What is another way I could handle that? What's another solution that could be out there? I mean, we still see, if you think like everything's solved, we still see people labbing solutions as of like this month that get posted on Twitter. There are new solutions coming out. Tech chases, combos, you name it. That stuff is still being made and developed and being posted publicly. So the answers are still out there. There's still new stuff to find. You can find it if you're looking for it. But not everyone wants to lab all that stuff, right? I'm not even someone that likes to necessarily lab. I like thinking about it and exploring it like mentally. Sometimes more than I do like, you know, actually just doing the stuff in Uncle Punch or whatever. Point being, I like trying to figure out how to solve problems, and I like, you know, chewing on it and figuring it out, and like, well, if I do this, then what can they do, and what is my combination of things that's right, and that all feels really fun. And so that's what I'm going to encourage for you. Find what feels really fun about Melee and follow that, because you will always have control of what feels fun, no matter what Nintendo does, no matter what the rest of the scene does, right? If you are having fun, they can't be taken away from you because you'll always be able to do that. There are still going to be people that are going to play Melee. Slippy is still existing. We can still just boot up and play. Or, you know, a lot of places have local scenes. You can just go somewhere and play. So it's still something, if you like it for the social aspect, you can still do that. And if that is the most important thing, then you need to find that. You need to chase after that because you're worth it. Melee's worth it. These people are going to feel that you want it and they're going to be drawn to it. So I really encourage you to find that and you have this drive to improve in Melee. And so it might be important to think about, you know, what is fueling that drive? What needs are met? What makes you feel most fulfilled? What moments capture that for you? So I encourage you to follow that and really feel it, and I think it can create something wonderful for you, and you know, Melee is a great way to do that. Hello 2016 Silverado. I'm really glad that AI has advanced enough to where you can ask me a question about Melee. You have an abundance of videos giving advice about improvement in Melee and mental endurance. When you started playing, did you always have these same thoughts and structured concepts about improving? If not, how did you become so knowledgeable about improvement? Yeah, I do have a good bit of videos out there giving advice. Once you watch the entirety of the GG Melee YouTube channel, why not check out mine, PPMD? It's got some cool stuff. I didn't have a good way to improve. I didn't know what I was doing when I started. I tried to be really good at soccer, for example, when I was younger, but I didn't know what I was doing. I just went out and juggled the ball because people said you get better at the game from juggling. I got really good at juggling. I didn't really get that much better at soccer. I didn't really know what to do. So suffice to say, I wasn't like the most, like, improvement wasn't something that came naturally, but like thinking something was fun and just like doing it over and over and over, I could do that. So that's where my strength more was, but I've just built up a lot of knowledge because at the time on Smashboards, there were people freely sharing concepts. There were people freely giving information and throwing out these frameworks, and I had a lot of questions, and so I would ask these questions, and people with a lot of more experience than I did would answer them and help me. You know, I just kept getting better and better and using that advice, and then, you know, I would try and give advice back eventually, and then maybe some things would not be fully right, or they would, and then people would take that, and then maybe some people would challenge me on things, and then I would learn more, and it was all just a good time. And then I started talking to more and more really knowledgeable people like Kirby Kaze or Drug Fox or whatever, and he's been around for a very long time. And so I was able to, you know, gain more and more of a framework from a lot of different places and build my own as a result of that. so if you are trying to use this for yourself, right, what do you do, right? Because what I said is it takes a long time. I recommend find maybe a Discord server or a smaller Twitch chat or coming into my stream or wherever and asking questions and getting a little bit of a framework from people that are willing to share it with you, and then building on that, you know, applying that. If you think the game is one way and you keep trying on that, but then something's kind of messing with you and you're like, well, okay, maybe there's more to it, and you find another way of thinking about the game or another strategy, and you start applying that, and now it's different, and now things are more nuanced. You are moving in the direction I moved in. So just keep after it. I didn't really understand, you know, the science of improvement until after I became a top player, and I started like having to consciously go for it because a lot of the joy was gone from me. I had to reconnect with that joy that I had earlier. And so I had to figure out how to connect with, you know, more of my beginner self. I had to connect with more of the joy I found from Melee early on. I had to really think about things in a different way. And that's why I tell people about the books, The Inner Game of Tennis and The Art of Learning so much, because they were very foundational for me to really become much more structured about how I see improvement and how I now apply it to myself for various things and how I talk to people. There are so many facets that are Melee specific, but there are so many facets that are general, and it all kind of moves together, and I'm still building on that even, you know, this week, this month, this year. My best advice is don't get too hung up on just one way of doing things. Try to pull from at least a couple ways so that you're always, you know, evolving your ideas. And I think it's just useful for anything. So hopefully that helps. I know it was a little difficult to maybe fully follow along, but I think there are some concrete steps in there as well. Good luck with your improvement journey. 2016 Silverado. Thank you so much for asking it. And thank you, all of you, for asking your questions. This was fun.